Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming to you guys with this video ranking all of the 2021 Best Picture nominees from worst to best. Alright, so this video will be the end of kind of my Oscars 2021 coverage or content, if you will, on the channel. So I have been taking a look at kind of my Oscars 2021 contenders series on my channel, which I like to call, where I've just been taking a look at 10 of the films that were kind of in contention for the Best Picture. Of course, 8 of the 10, that I'll be talking about in this video were part of that series. And just kind of looking at those, sharing my thoughts on them, and then also talking about their chances at the Oscars. And before the nominations had come out, we talked about what kind of nominations they could get. And then once they were out, of course, what were their chances of winning at the Oscars, which of course just took place last week. And some crazy surprises, a part of that show. And a lot of things I was very happy about, and some things that I wish would have went differently, but pretty foreseeable, right? If you were kind of paying attention to the race, and a lot of these predictions, at least for me, really did come true for the most part. But anyways, this one I did want to do. I know we're a little bit past the time, and I did really mean to get this out before the Oscars, but regardless, I still really wanted to make this video and just kind of talk about each of these films very briefly, in sort of this ranked list here, putting together my kind of personal thoughts, but also a little bit based on kind of objectivity here as well. Some of these, films are ahead of each other or ahead of others because I just think objectively they are better, not necessarily based on my personal interests, but of course that plays a part too. Anyways, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on a ranking of these movies. Even if you haven't seen all of them, maybe just let me know your thoughts on the ones you have seen and where you would rank them. Something I would also really, like to hear is, how do these movies compare to some of the past Oscar nominated movies? Because I really am looking forward to kind of looking back on this year and comparing it even to last year, where we had, number of really great films, some of the best of the decade for me at least. And really looking forward to kind of comparing those with previous years. So that'll be something, really looking forward to, and love to discuss that with you guys. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel as well. Would really appreciate that. But without any further ado, let's get into the ranking list from worst to best, and we'll start off here with number 9. Alright, so starting the list off at number 8, which is the worst film of the list here, is going to be The Trial of the Chicago 7. So I will give a rating here for each of the films as I go on, just so it gives a little bit more, a better idea of some of these and how they really rank together. But this one is a 2 out of 5, is what I gave this one. And this is also the most recent film I've seen out of any of the 8. So just, I wanted to put that out there. And of course, recency bias does play a massive role in some of these rankings and the way you look back at films. And so that is just something I will mention as I go along. So anyways, great performances in this one from the ensemble cast, but they were good with what they were given. Because, again, I'll talk about performances basically for all of these films as I go through. And there were some really great ones here that definitely stood out. Sacha Baron Cohen, obviously standing out, getting the supporting actor nomination. Eddie Redmayne, I think, also really stuck out. And Eddie Redmayne's character, to me, is really the only one in the film that is not this kind of one-note, same character throughout the entire film, and one that actually has a little bit of depth there. So yes, these actors gave a good performance in these type of, caricature, kind of one-note characters throughout the entire film, but none of them really showed much depth, again, besides Redmayne, and really showed that kind of Oscar-level performance that a lot of them are capable of, right? A number of them have been nominated for Academy Awards before, even a couple of them I think have won. Eddie Redmayne, of course, has won an Academy Award, so they're capable. The problem with this film, though, is the script. A very surface-level script here with a lot of clunky dialogue, in my opinion. like I said, a lot of caricatures instead of real characters, a lot of one note. Jeremy Strong's character is maybe the best example of this. It's a very, provides some comedic relief here and there. And Jeremy Strong, again, is so great in that role. Love his kind of, his comedic timing and that kind of dry humor. He's so good at that. And he's great in this film at that, but his character has nothing to go on. It is such a caricature-like character. And someone like the judge as well in this with Frank Langella, oh my, that is just like a complete caricature, and just really not realistic at all. And by that I mean obviously some of the characters like the judge, but also just a lot of the situations and a lot of the kind of events of this film just didn't seem realistic. It's one thing where you take dramatic license, right? And, obviously a lot of the events in the film didn't happen or, were really exaggerated. And that's okay if you take dramatic license. But even if this was a fictional story that Sorkin completely made up himself and it wasn't based on true events, some of these scenes and some of these moments are just so unrealistic that it's so hard to connect to these characters or connect to the story in any meaningful way beyond just for humor and for, just entertainment value, right? There's just really nothing too deep here in this film where you really could have had some deep stuff in this, and it's such good material and such a good story, especially very relevant to what's going on now. And so for this story to be wasted like this, and I really think it was wasted on this film that also just seemed very messy. There was really no structure to this one, and so these things all contributing together are really emphasizing this kind of messiness, this kind of unorganized plot throughout the entire film. And some of the editing, of course, it's kind of this fast-paced dialogue, this brisk editing throughout the film, kind of a typical Sorkin thing, right? Typical Sorkin film. Something like a Moneyball obviously comes to mind. But it just doesn't help the film in the same way that it does for some of those other, some of his better films, because the structure is missing here, and a lot of scenes are just kind of pieced together and cobbled together to make this kind of story with a lot of weird kind of subplots that don't relate to the story, and things that just don't really get tied up at the end. And not to mention that the ending is pretty disappointing. It's a very neat ending and really just tied up very easily, but not realistic at all. And again, just harks back to this problem with the film, and that it's not very realistic. It's a very surface level script and a very surface level retelling of these events. And it's just unfortunate because, again, I think it's a waste of such a good story and such good material. And I really think this film makes for Sorkin's worst film that I have seen, at least. I'm sure maybe there are some out there that I haven't seen that might be worse, but for me, at least in my experience, this one is definitely Sorkin's worst, and that is why it is at number 8 on this list. All right, so next on our list, which is the number 7 spot here, the second worst, I suppose. And I do want to say the next 3 films, number 5 to 7, are very close to me, and you'll see that reflected in their rating. But number 7 is Promising Young Woman, and this one I gave a 3 out of 5. So it is quite a step up from Trial, and again, most of these films here in the next few slots are very much very, very similar in terms of a ranking. But anyways, they have to go somewhere, and so number 7 is Promising Young Woman. So an impressive performance from Carey Mulligan here. Again, I never really thought it was an Oscar-winning performance. I think it was worthy of a nomination, especially in this year, but it is impressive nonetheless. Some of the best, acting I've seen from Carey Mulligan. I've seen probably a little bit better in some other films, but I thought she was really great. And the character here, she really embodies and really kind of digs into that character, and you really do believe her in that role. I also think Bo Burnham was great here. Some really great comedic relief. He was honestly a really big part of a lot of the comedy that really landed in the film, that really worked. And so I thought he was great. Maybe not a supporting actor, level great, but he was also really great and complimented Carey Mulligan in a really, really powerful way. throughout the kind of middle, at least, of this film. So obviously unique stylistic choices and ambitious overall approach to the film. So the style very kind of similar to a Killing Eve vibe, right, when Emerald Fennell was the showrunner in season 2. A kind of a similar thing, right? We have kind of this pink kind of purple, this kind of very vibrant colors and all this stuff as part of the color palette, but then also they find themselves in the cinematography of the film as well, even in the kind of the writing on the screen, the logos, everything is just all part of this style, and it's always faithful to that style. It really doesn't break at any point in the film, and this is something that really sets this film apart and makes it unique, makes it stand out, and probably makes it one of the most memorable ones of this list, right? Because of this unique style, and then also this ambitious approach. Being able to, tell a story like this in this film and be so overt with the commentary and really make that almost the purpose of the film itself. Now, obviously, there's a negative to that, and I'll get to that. But just in itself, being that ambitious and being willing to go there with this film, and even obviously some of the comedic elements as well, to make this into a bit of a comedy at times, very ambitious. And again, another thing that really makes this stand out and makes it unique. While compared to some of the other films, especially in this type of genre that cover similar type of material, very, very unique in that way. So the commentary does really it does really show here at the expense of the story. So that is a problem, obviously. Like I said, it's ambitious, but it doesn't always work in this film. I feel like some of the commentary is, again, it's almost too overt at times, and it really sacrifices just the things that actually make sense in the story. There's, multiple moments and kind of situations here that things happen to more or less, further that narrative or further that kind of messaging or commentary, of course, of this, of kind of toxic masculinity, sexual harassment, all these kind of, topics, I guess, if you will, or issues. The messaging for those is often kind of overshadows the actual narrative and the actual progression of the story, which to me kind of takes it away. And again, that's kind of what Emerald Fennell was doing here. I think she was kind of prioritizing that messaging, and of course it shows. So, yes, in the way that she was trying to make this film, I think she succeeded, but I really would have liked to see a little bit better of a story here and a little bit more polished, where these events actually do make sense, they're realistic, and the progression kind of is coherent here. It makes sense, and again, the commentary here kind of pulled away a little bit from those moments and also made them less impactful too. I mean, obviously there's several, really emotional moments in the film, and to me they didn't hit as hard because I was too busy thinking about how this makes no sense and this doesn't, align with the story very well. Where are we going here with this? And so yeah, just not as impactful as it could have been, and I'm sure not as impactful as it was for some other people, right? And also I just think there was some Netflix movie writing here, honestly. And Netflix movies have kind of a bad track record, and I don't think it's quite that bad, but it's kind of on that sort of level. There's a lot of melodrama and kind of cliches throughout the entire film, and just again things that don't really make a lot of sense, that don't seem that realistic, and just kind of this over kind of dramatizing, kind of this melodrama of a lot of these scenes and situations, and again it just kind of plays towards that messaging, but doesn't seem that very realistic, and again makes it kind of hard to connect to those characters and to the overall story. So, and also the ending to me felt very, very messy. I really did not enjoy the ending, of course, after the big scene, if you know what I'm talking about. Everything after that to me was basically a wash. Really disappointing with that ending, and again, it's just such melodrama and such kind of cliche, unrealistic writing there at the end that really ruined it for me in that way. So anyways, there at number 7 is Promised Young Woman on my list. All right, so at number 6, we have Judas and the Black Messiah, and this one I gave a 3 out of 5, so the same rating as Promise Young Woman. And this was also the first film that I saw out of all of these, by quite a bit too. I think, I watched this one almost, a couple weeks before I saw any of the other ones. So anyways, just want to get that out there for sure. So Daniel Kaluuya, absolutely awesome in this performance, really disappears in this Fred Hampton character. And of course, Lakeith Stanfield also really great. Dominique Fishback I thought was really outstanding. I thought she really deserved a supporting actress nomination. Really great, and the chemistry between Kaluuya and Fishback in the film is just on the next level. Really, like these two really, work well together. And of course, Jesse Plemons was also great in his role. All of those guys all stand out. Really great job all the way around, and again, they're playing these real characters, these real people, and I guess Jesse Plemons is not really right, but the other three are really playing these real people, and they really, like I said, like Kaluuya, disappear in those people and in those characters, and really bring those people to life, on screen. So really great job there. Great cinematography and some really brisk editing that kind of keeps some cadence to the film and actually makes it quite entertaining at parts. Again, the moments actually themselves are quite slow. There isn't any kind of big action or anything like that, but just the pacing of these moments and piecing them together in the film, I thought was really well done. And then obviously the cinematography, really great. Some really ambitious shots in this film, just a really great color palette and capturing that period well. And the beginning sequence to the film is definitely one of my favorite sequences of the year. That was just excellent stuff with the cinematography and the way that they shot that. Really, really impressive stuff. So great stuff there. The main problem with this one, though, is that there was such little depth for any of these characters and the events of the film that take place. There's a lot of conflicted characters. That's kind of the main theme of the film. Especially, for example, with Stanfield's character, right? The FBI informant side of him, committed to the FBI and getting them information, but then also getting attached to the Black Panthers as his, time with them goes on. And obviously getting attached to Fred Hampton as well. But again, these things are kind of laid, the groundwork is laid, and we can see it kind of happening, but there's very little depth for any of these kind of stories connecting them and giving them a little bit more development for these characters. I mean, even, Fred Hampton, we don't really even know why he is so committed to what he's committed to in the film, why he's so loyal to the party and to the cause, and I just really would have liked to see some more scenes and some more moments where we get some really nice reflection, right, from these characters and actually, get inside their head a little bit, get some introspection here of what they're going through, why they feel the way they do, instead of just being told why they feel that way, and being shown them acting in a certain way. Well, then why are they acting that way? I just would have liked to see a little bit more depth here, a little bit more development, and then also a lot of the events of the film, like I said, have very little context, throughout the film, and you're kind of trying to figure out along the way, why are they here? What is this for? And you're trying to piece these things together, and they don't always add up to this kind of cohesive story at the end of it. So those are kind of my two main problems. And I will say, I think they're, when these scenes that they did where they were kind of reenacting moments that actually happened in real life, a lot of the speeches that Fred Hampton gives, Daniel Kaluuya's character, I thought those were some of the best moments of the film. So in that way, I think as a reenactment or kind of a kind of dramatization, maybe it does work well, but there's just, again, very little kind of under the surface here, under the kind of level where everything is at, where they're just kind of reenacting these events and showing these events without any, detail or without any explanation behind them. So again, really great kind of surface level and a great start for Shaka King with this film. I believe it's I think it's his second feature, or his first drama feature at least. His other one was a comedy, or like a complete comedy. So definitely an interesting start for Shaka King, and really looking forward to what he does next. So again, kind of a promising film where I thought they had a lot of potential here. Could have been a lot better, but also pretty good with what they were trying to go for here in accomplishing, what they were really going for here with kind of this more reenactment, dramatization of these events. event. So anyways, that is why it is number 6 on this list. All right, so at number 5, we have Mank. So this one I also gave it 3 out of 5, right? The same as the last few. And I really think this one could change, right? Judas and Promising Young Woman, they could probably, take over Mank, maybe Promising Young Woman takes over Judas, right? All these three are kind of interchangeable for me. But anyways, Oldman and Seyfried are good in this film. I don't think they're on next level though, like some people. I think Gary Oldman is great. I think, Amanda Seyfried is good, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're really on the next level, but they are really great in these characters and what the script is really giving them. Again, with a lot of these other films, there's not a ton of development for these characters. There's not a lot of backstory, or, even depth, especially in Amanda Seyfried's case with her character. There's just not a lot of depth there for her character, and she doesn't really show a lot of range. So yes, they are really great in the roles that they are given here and that they're being asked to play, especially, Ullman playing Mankiewicz, right, the real guy. Of course, Amanda Seyfried's playing, a real person, but maybe kind of less time spent on her, of course, right? Anyways, both performances really great. Charles Dance also really stands out in this one. I thought he maybe could have been up for a supporting actor nom. I think he was that good. And then also Lily Collins, really great in this film as well. So the performances overall, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good for what they were being asked to do. So, of course, this film really succeeds at what it's trying to do in building this kind of immersive look into 1930s Hollywood and, of course, the career of Mank to kind of a lesser degree, right, of Herman J. Mankiewicz. And just creating this experience and this nostalgia, they do so well. Of course, just starting with the black and white cinematography, right? And just the way that this film is captured, the way that it's told. Even I really love the way that they do for the flashbacks and they type it out on screen like it's a screenplay, right? In the type of font. And just everything a part of this film is so dedicated to that style and so faithful to those kind of 1930s Hollywood movies. And they just really do such a good job at accomplishing that and making you feel like you're really watching one of those old movies. Though I will say my only thing with this, which I never understood, is why they shot this film on a digital camera instead of film. That's something I do not understand. I never will get that choice that they made. I think the film would have made it look even more authentic. But it's even kind of more impressive that they shot on digital and it still looked that good. So anyways, that's kind of what it is. I will say, though, I think this is more of a passion project for David Fincher. And it does kind of lack a clear plot and structure to this one. It is a little bit indulgent at times. Some of these scenes really have no business being there and furthering the plot. And there's a lot of different plots in this film that are all kind of going on at the same time that never really actually build a cohesive story here throughout the entire film. Of course, the main kind of focus of this one is him finishing the screenplay for Citizen Kane. But even that is not really the main plot of this one because there's so many other things going on, and it really is just kind of this hangout movie. I compared it to something like, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood last year. The majority of that film is really just a hangout movie, seeing these scenes and these situations play out that make you feel this nostalgia and give you this experience of you kind of being there or being in this world. But they don't actually contribute that much to the story and to these characters right in the film. And so in that way, again, they really did well. They really succeeded in achieving that, kind of building that immersive experience. But it just really, it didn't really feel like a cohesive story and kind of a coherent plot throughout the film. And it also, of course, created some uneven pacing. A lot of people said this one was very boring, right? It's kind of this meandering through the story, meandering through the film, and I can definitely see that too. So anyways, that is what makes Mank number 5 on this list. All right, so at number 4 on this list is Nomadland. So this one I gave a 3.5 out of 5. So a little bit of a step up from these other 4 films so far, but still a little bit behind some of these, the ones in the top 3. So Frances McDormand is perfect in this role in this film, and of course she won for Best Actress at the Oscars, her 3rd lead actress win, which was kind of insane. But anyways, just a perfect performance in this role. Nothing overly big, nothing over the top, right? Nothing kind of this over dramatic kind of typical Oscar performance. but just so perfect and so kind of such an honest and kind of realistic performance here, and the way that she's able to adapt into this world of a bunch of these non-actors, and such genuine kind of reactions, and just the way that she interacts with these real people is something that I think a lot of actors wouldn't have been able to do. I think McDormand is of a few actors even working that could actually do this and make it feel authentic, and not kind of overact in these situations. So really amazing job for her. Can't say enough about that. And David Strathairn is also really great in his role. He is so honest and so realistic in that. I even fell for at the beginning. I thought he was one of the real people and non-actors. Of course, I've seen him in some other things, and I quickly kind of realized that he was an actor, but he was that good for me in this film, and I really think he could have been up for a supporting actor nomination as well. So obviously successfully delivers this honest and realistic look at the lives of American nomads, and just that alone is basically, makes the movie perfect, because that's what they were going for, is this realistic, this honest, authentic look at the lives of these nomads and this lifestyle just overall, right? And looking at this world that is very different from the majority of people who will be watching the film. And of course, this kind of unique style makes the film so effective, in this kind of documentary style at times. A lot of this first person stuff with or not actual first person, but spending a lot of time just with Frances McDormand, her character Fern, in the trailer, doing these things. Very kind of, these things that, not much is happening in the scenes, but you're kind of just spending time with her, right? These very kind of small, just very small actions, very small moments that are made big for the film, right? That are kind of these main focal points of it, and just experiencing this lifestyle and living with Fern and meeting these people as she meets them. Again, very kind of, feels like very much a documentary in that way. So really, really fantastic job there. And this approach, so ambitious and such a unique style to this one for Chloe Zhao to take. And of course, that is, probably the majority of voters voted for her for Best Director. Of course, she won because of that, because of this unique style and this approach to the film that I don't think has been this, achieved this successfully at all before, or at least maybe in this specific way. I really don't think any film has done this before, or, has done it as successfully as Chloe Zhao did it here. So really great job. But I will say there is kind of a lack of a clear structure and plot for me in this one as well. And that is something that kind of takes it down. I can recognize that objectively speaking, this one is really great. And again, it's almost a perfect film because it achieves exactly what it's going for. Just for me personally, I just think more of a story would have made this film even better, and made the kind of interactions, especially between David Strathairn and Frances McDormand's characters in the film, those moments really would have landed a little bit better if we spent more time fleshing out kind of a real story here behind the movie, and had this kind of structure where we could have seen that play out. But then again, maybe you would have had less of the documentary approach to the film, and it wouldn't have been as effective. So yes, I would have liked to see more of a story, but maybe that would have taken away from the film too much, and, weakened it in that way. But to me, I think that would have made the film stronger, just in my opinion, right? And just overall a good film. I recognize why this won Best Picture at the Oscars this year, because it's such a pleasing film. It really is. It's not a negative one. And for a lot of people, they're not going to be that passionate. They're not, a lot of these people aren't going to see it as kind of a perfect film, as a best of the decade. But it's not a bad one either. It's just kind of this good level of filmmaking, and a really impressive one at that, with Nomadland. So anyways, in my opinion, it is number 4 on this list. All right, so next at number 3 is The Father. So this one I gave a 4 out of 5. Again, a little bit of a step up from Nomadland, and the same as my rating for number 2. So Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman, I'll throw her into, I think both of them are on another level in this film. Easily the best I've seen from both of them. I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs for Anthony Hopkins, and that's the one he won for before this one. Of course, he wins lead actor. Very surprising for me as well. Very, very surprising, but definitely deserved. He is unbelievable in this film, and Olivia Colman, I think, is too. I mean, she's really great in her role and what she was asked to play here. Just fantastic performance from Olivia Colman, and she already has an Oscar for lead actress for The Favorite a couple years ago, and I think she really deserved a supporting actress, even a win. I think she's worthy of that in this film. Just excellent job. And also Rufus Sewell I thought was pretty good in this film as well, as kind of the boyfriend, but also an antagonist in a way in the film as well, which worked well. So really good job at achieving this immersive experience into the mind of someone with dementia. And in this case, Anthony Hopkins' character, Anthony, right? And this is something I don't think any film has done before in terms of, capturing this mind of somebody with dementia and what it really feels like. And that's what this film captured so well, even, outside of everything else that made this film so great. That in itself is such an accomplishment and really makes this film stand out. So really great job. And of course, this non-linear storytelling was not new. Something like a Memento came to mind right away when I started watching this film, and it kind of caught on to what was happening. Really like Memento, and that kind of linear storytelling works really well, and it works so well in this film, really contributing to that. And you really could have had a film that played out in a linear way and still kind of tried to be in his mind and his perspective. But the nonlinear storytelling really, really makes this film, and is such a good choice by Florian Zeller here. In terms of the writing, and I'm sure the directing as well. The editing also really helps this approach. Really fantastic editing, especially the transitions is something that I really paid attention to as the film was going on. In these scenes that, again, are kind of non-linear, that kind of just flow together and just, feel really like it's just one, afternoon that plays out, but it's so many of these different moments. And the transitions really capture that, because you go from one room and you switch over to the other room with the way that they're shooting the film. And it really does. It feels just like the same sequence that's continuing all the way throughout the film. And it really keeps you locked in to the very end. Something that also helps with that is an excellent production design with this apartment. And again, feeling like you're in the exact same place in every room, everywhere you go. It's kind of this trap, and they really trap you in this experience and into the mind of Anthony Hopkins' character. So really excellent job with all of those things contributing to it. And then also the score, I think, is something that should be mentioned that isn't mentioned enough. I think it's also really great as well, and really contributes to this almost natural horror of the film as well, and some of these more heartbreaking, kind of chilling moments in the film for sure. My only negative, and why this isn't any higher, why this isn't a 5 out of 5, because it really is that good, is it still felt like a play to me. And that's something that is a negative of this one, and something that was obviously a negative One Night in Miami and Ma Rainey. It does feel like a play still. Obviously it is cinematic. It does play as a movie quite well, but it does kind of seem a little bit restrained by its play approach here, by its theatric approach. And again, I just think that really contributed to the runtime. I thought this film could have been a bit longer, and I feel like it could have fleshed out a few things that maybe couldn't have been done on a stage, or in this at least type of, theater-like, approach to the film. So anyways, that's really my only negative to this one, is that it did feel like a play. You very much, kind of notice that as the movie played through, but still nonetheless worked as a film and worked really great. So that is why it is number 3 on my list. All right, so at number 2, we have Sound of Metal. This one I also gave it 4 out of 5, but I do think it is a little bit more, it's a little bit closer to number 1 than it is to number 3 with The Father. So Sound of Metal was a really pleasantly surprising movie, because this one I went in, I thought it was just going to be this kind of cliche story of this, musician. Oh, he kind of suffers this loss or experience this kind of setback, and then he gets back on the horse and he's successful again. And this type of story is what I was expecting with this one, but the fact that it went in the total opposite direction and provided such great nuance and such a unique take on this familiar genre, this familiar story here, was just something that really pleasantly surprised me and was really impressive, and again, really set this one apart from some of the other films on this list and a lot of the other films in this genre that tackles this similar kind of story. Even just of a musician itself is something that's been commonly explored, and just such excellent job here. And Darius Martyr, for this being his directorial debut, absolutely excellent, and really looking forward to what he does next, of course. But Riz Ahmed is simply incredible in this film. I mean, absolutely incredible. I really was not expecting this, and Riz Ahmed, I thought, is someone who's been on this level of the Oscars for quite a while. Some of his performances that I've seen have been really excellent, but to me, this is really his kind of, arrival, really, to the scene. He is so great in this, and such a realistic portrayal of this character, and some of these moments where he's very subtle, he's so great at, and some of the more showy moments where he has to kind of yell and scream and cry, he's really good at those as well. And so these, kind of combination of both those moments and the way he's able to play those through is just incredible, absolutely insane. Definitely the second best performance of the year, next to Anthony Hopkins for me. And Paul Raci is also really good in this. He has one or two kind of specific scenes in the film that are really good, really emotional, kind of heartbreaking scenes, and he plays them so damn well. And then also he's really great in those comedic relief kind of moments in the film as well. So really great job by Paul Raci, and definitely deserving of that supporting actor nomination. So, like I said, delivers this unique and nuanced take on this familiar story, this kind of, star overcoming this setback or this weakness. We've seen it a million times almost, right, in these films, and the fact that this one feels so honest and authentic is just, again, something that really makes it stand out, and it really does feel so real, and so it really kind of immerses you in this world, into this experience of Ruben and this character, and even the world of the deaf community, right? Choosing real deaf people in this that are more or less non-actors as well, really, really great choice. And just, it really adds this authenticity to the film. Even a guy like Paul Raci, casting him in a supporting role, obviously he's not deaf, but he did have deaf parents, and so he is fluent in sign language. So a lot of these things all contribute to the authenticity of this one, and even just the way that the film is shot as well contributes to this. A lot of kind of close shots, a lot of really small environments here where they capture these shots. It really makes you, feel like you're there and you're kind of trapped in this situation with these characters. And obviously that comes through Riz Ahmed's performance as well. So really honest, really authentic, and obviously very respectful to the deaf community and involving them in this film, and really kind of seamlessly fitting them into the story here as well, in this story of course, Ruben going deaf and having to cope with that, and obviously realizing all these people around him in the deaf community also going through that, and really adapting to that lifestyle. That's really, really powerful in this one. So obviously brilliant sound design as well. It won the best sound Oscar this year, and really deserving. I mean, this is excellent sound design just in itself, but then also the use of it, incorporating it into the film and into the story here, and being able to have these moments where you hear what Ruben is hearing, and we're almost in his head, in his kind of perspective here, and that is just so impactful to the film, and really brings it a lot to it. And really makes some of these scenes really hit home. And again, this really authentic feeling, and they really nailed the sound here as well, and what it would actually sound like to these characters, and I guess to Ruben specifically. Just excellent job at incorporating the sound and using it in a way that also didn't feel like a gimmick either. This film could have worked without it and still would have been great. It just makes it better. It doesn't make the film itself, it just makes it a little bit better. And so all of that combined and contributing to this realistic, honest, authentic take on the story. Really excellent job here, and something I was not expecting, but boy was I pleasantly surprised to see. So anyways, number 2 is Sound of Metal. All right, so we've reached the end. We are now at the top. The best film of these Best Picture nominees is Minari. So this one I gave a 4.5 out of 5. So there's no perfect rating here on this list for me. But this is a film that really stands out to me. And I would probably only put 3 films last year over this one. This one stands out. I mean, if you talk about best of the decade, I think this would be up there for me. An absolutely excellent film here. The whole cast is really great. Even the kids in this one, right? Steven Yeun all obviously stands out, and he gets the Best Actor nomination. So happy to see that as a big Walking Dead fan. So happy for Steven Yeun. And then obviously Yoo Jung-yoon winning Supporting Actress. So deserved. Such a good performance from her. In both, I mean, even the emotional and the comedic moments in this one, she's so great. And Alan Kim, absolutely excellent job. Roman Griffin Davis was a real standout. Probably one of the best child, actor performances I'd seen in Jojo Rabbit last year. And Alan Kim is, I don't know, he rivals him. Honestly, he's so great in this film. And I doubt that even much of it is just acting. He's just so charming and so great in this role. Just a really, really great job by Alan Kim in this. So really looking forward, of course, to what he's involved in next. Absolutely excellent stuff. And then also, Noel Kate Cho as the daughter, really great. And Yuri Han is also really great. I feel like she could have been, in there for that lead actress, supporting actress conversation. She was great as well. So a nuanced and unique take on an American dream story, which kind of like Sound of Metal here. Going into this one, it kind of sounds like a cliche story. It's this American dream kind of immigrant story that, of course, we've seen explored before, probably ad nauseum at this point. It kind of a common story, a common approach to these films. But this is such a nuanced and unique take on this one. And in a way that, yes, it's challenging, right? And most of these films, most of these stories are kind of these, oh, it looks so promising. And then they have a big setback. It's challenging. It's more challenging what they thought it was. And then at the very end, they kind of catch a break and they join, they achieve the American dream. And, they're kind of there. But this one doesn't do that at all. It really turns things on its head, especially towards the end of the film, where we get this idea of it just kind of, it is what it is, right? It is just kind of this constant struggle. You don't overnight achieve this American dream and get there. A lot of the times, people never get there. And that is really what this film is kind of showing us. And again, it's just such this nuanced take that you don't see a lot. And it's just so much more realistic than all these kind of, movies with these happy endings and all this. And this one isn't a particularly sad ending. I guess it is kind of emotional, but it's not necessarily sad. It's just more realistic and more honest. And just such a... again, a kind of realistic take on this American dream story, which we haven't seen a lot before. Obviously, emotionally captivating throughout the film, but it's also genuinely funny, and I love films that are able to balance this, and just such a seamless balance as well. The Grandma and David scenes, obviously some of the funniest scenes of the entire year, just so charming and honestly genuinely funny. Really some really good laughs in this, and then obviously emotionally captivating. When it goes to those points, it feels, you really connect to those situations. It really doesn't bring you out because of the comedy. The tone here is just expertly balanced here. It's really just seamless throughout the entire film. And the way that they're able to go to both places, just really impressive stuff here overall. And obviously some, really powerful themes throughout this film. There's a lot, but marriage, of course, the kind of American dream, this kind of disconnect between older generations and younger generations. I mean, there's just so many things that so many people can connect to in this film, even if you're not, a Korean family or immigrants, or had this kind of experience. There's just so many themes in this film that really, again, seamlessly kind of blend together and really contribute to this overall story. And so many people can relate to some of these themes, just so common, but also, again, really contribute well to the story in this kind of nuanced take. So really great job at that, and just a very wholesome film overall, especially compared to some of these films that are a little bit more kind of hard-hitting. This film, yes, it does have some hard-hitting points, with the grandma, some scenes towards the end of the film, but just overall, it's wholesome, man. It really is. Again, some really great, comedic moments, and just really kind of charming moments throughout the film that make you feel good. And of course, those emotional moments that pack the punch as well. So anyways, really looking forward to what Lee Isaac Chung does next, and really happy that he got that Best Directing nomination as well. So anyways, with all that being said, number one for me for this year, Best Picture nominees is Minari, and definitely in there for my best of the decade for sure. Alright, so that'll just about do it for my ranking here of the Best Picture nominees for the 2021 Oscars. Really enjoyed putting this one together. Really enjoyed looking at all these films this year. Looking forward to next year's Oscars as well. Of course, this one a little bit weaker in terms of the competition here, because a lot of the big films, a lot of the ones we were all expecting to be there, weren't there, or at least the majority of them, right? And so really looking forward to next year, the 2022 Oscars. Of course, we're a few months away from when that season is going to begin. Not quite a year though, right? Like normal Oscars, it's going to come a little bit sooner now, which will be also, a lot of fun. So anyways, yes, really enjoyed looking at some of these films, and obviously not the best kind of list that could have been, but I think obviously towards the top here, some really great films that even compared to last year's list, which a lot of people are saying last year was one of the best, years in film, and the Oscars were really great and all this stuff. Yes, there were some good films, but a number of these films this year, I think, would definitely find themselves, well, compared to those films, it would definitely find themselves towards the top of a list. In terms of, those films, but also just of the decade as well. Some really great ones, and obviously some smaller ones too. Films like Sound of Metal and Minari are not ones that you would typically see at the Oscars, and probably would not have gotten that opportunity this year, had there been kind of this bigger competition. So really great to see those types of films this year, and really enjoyed looking at them this time. So love to hear your guys' thoughts, of course, on this ranking. If you have seen any of these films, you've seen all of them, that's amazing, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the ones you have seen, and kind of maybe a ranking of those as well. Really, really great, and I'd love to discuss with you guys, of course. But anyways, this will just about do it then for my 2021 Oscars coverage here on the channel, and again, looking forward to next year for sure. So anyways, once again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we'll see you then in my next review. 속삭이는 맘